Hello there, survivors, and welcome back to another build tutorial in ARK Survival Ascended. Today, I'm showing you step by step how to build this futuristic ocean base that I designed. Now, I build it on Astraeos, but of course, anywhere where you have an ocean, you can build this as long as you have a decently flat ocean floor to get you started with, or at least that would make it easier. This build is entirely possible to do without mods. However, it is a lot easier to do with mods, especially Architect Structures Remastered would make your life a lot easier. But nowadays, there's plenty of custom cosmetics that you can also use on official servers or on servers without mods that will make your life a lot easier and make your builds look a lot nicer for these modern type builds. Like the Quantum Custom Cosmetic, although that is a premium one, but you also have the Modern Structures one, which is a free option instead. Definitely for the glass, I would recommend using a mod or maybe a custom cosmetic, because the greenhouse glass that is in the normal game isn't really that nice. You can't really see through it that well. So yeah, at least use a custom cosmetic or a mod for the glass. For the rest of it, you can get away without using mods. Mods just make your life a little bit easier. Anyway, if you enjoy these build tutorials, make sure to subscribe and like the video to show your support, and feel free to leave suggestions for future builds down in the comments below. And if you want to show even more support, you can always consider becoming a YouTube member. With that being said, let's get into the build. And of course, as most builds, we start with the foundation, starting with normal foundations, 8 long to begin with, and we're going to be making a circle shape. So first off, we need 8 normal foundations, then going into 8 triangles, only counting the outside of this. And this is basically the pattern that we're going to have to start repeating until we make it all the way back around to where we started. So every time it's going to be 8 before you switch it up. So triangles, then normal foundations, triangle foundations, normal foundations, all the way around until we have a circle that each side is 8 foundations. So yeah, it's not really that complicated, but we just need it. And the best thing is, of course, if you find a spot that is actually flat enough where you can do this without having to go to different levels, because it will just make the building a little bit easier. So yeah, just keep going with your triangles, 8 on the outside, then 8 foundations, 8 triangles, foundations on the outside, etc, etc, etc. And eventually we should end back up at where we started, and it should all line up if you did it correctly. So make sure to keep track of counting till 8. Especially with the triangles, this can be a little bit more tricky because you're only counting the outside ones, not the ones on the inside. That's what matters. And what you also want to make sure is that wherever you're building, it's actually deep enough that if you place a behemoth gate on top of these foundations, you're still below the water surface level, because otherwise you don't have a lot of room for your ocean breeding pen. So yeah, we're just going to continue. We should be getting quite close, as you could see. There we go. And we just line up these last foundations. If we did it correctly, it should all line up, and we should have one big circular foundation now. And that's just the start. We're gonna slowly expand this. We're gonna, on the normal foundations on the corners, we're gonna make pillars all the way up until the surface level. And then we want to make sure that we have at least one pillar that is fully above the water. So we're going to do that for all the corners of the normal foundations that we've placed. So yeah, we're just going to keep going up these pillars. And as I said, one of the pillars needs to be fully out of the water at least. Of course, you can make it higher if you prefer, but I would at least go out by one full pillar, because then it means that everything that will build above, like the actual base part, will all fit in there. So yeah, just going to go around all the corners of these normal foundations. Need to have these pillars on them going up all the way until they breach the surface, and then one pillar will be completely above the surface. Now, of course, for me, this kind of almost perfectly lines up right now, but depending on how deep you build, you might have like a slightly sticking out pillar above the water, then you would always have one pillar that is entirely above the surface. So make sure you keep that in mind. It needs to be entirely out of the water, not just a part of it. So fully out of the water, that's the first one that counts. That's at least the height that I would recommend going to for this base. So yeah, make sure just go all the way around, adding in all these pillars. And there we go. We have the whole circle and the pillars sticking out everywhere. Now we're going to expand this foundation on the outside. We're going to go out by 10, and we want to do this on some of the sides. We're going to have 4 of these sides. At least one of them here is going to start from one of the normal foundations, and then we're going to bring it out by 10 normal foundations to expand this shape. And then we're going to add the diagonal with the triangles here, 4 on the outside. We're going to do the same thing here, so 4 on the outside. And if the landscape isn't completely flat, it's not the worst thing. Of course, it's going to be very hard to find a spot where you can do this all on the same level. For here, it's mostly just important that we get the foundation support for these shapes. So we just want to make sure that we have this shape. Then we go to the opposite side from where we started. So again, this should be from a full foundation that we start. And we go out by 10 foundations before making the whole shape again. Of course, we can do this on the other side as well. From the normal foundations, going out by 10, and then making our little rounded shape at the end. So we go to triangles. It's going to have to be 4 here on the outside, like so. Then it's going to be 4 here on the end as well. And it's also going to be, of course, 4 here to connect it all the way back up. Then we have 2 sides, the opposite sides. Then we want to go exactly in the middle. So this is going to be from triangles foundations. But we're going to go out again, just the same, with 10 normal foundations. Basically making this whole base into like a cross. So it needs to have, yeah, exactly quarters where these parts stick out. Yeah. If you do that, it should look like a big cross from the top. So we're going to go out by 10 normal foundations and then filling in the shape. Again, if the landscape doesn't really want to work with you for these parts that stick out, it's not the worst thing, because we're not going to build anything on top of this. These parts are just there to give us the foundation support above the water where we will be expanding the platforms. So yeah, then of course, if you've done this one, you want to go exactly to the opposite side, which again should be triangles, and then we do this one more time. So going out by 10 full foundations, then trying to make a nice little curved shape at the end, and that should help us when we do the same thing on the walkways above the water to have the extended platforms. So yeah, we go into the rounded bit and we fill in this last part, and that is the whole foundation that we will need for this building. So after this, it's a matter of starting to fill this all in. We've got the entire shape now, and now we want to start filling in this entire foundation so that we have foundation support everywhere for the entire base that we're planning to build. So first off, here in the circle, it's actually going to be quite easy. Against the triangles on the inside, we want to place normal foundations, which means that against the normal foundations, we want to place triangles. And this is kind of the shape that you're just going to have to follow, the pattern that you will have to follow all the way through until you end up in the middle with a tiny little circle. So after we filled it all in, we can start with placing the behemoth gates. We start here at the bits where we have the extended platform. So this should be on full foundations. Then we'll skip this gap. We'll skip one, and then we'll place another behemoth gate right there. We can skip this one, and then we should be able to place another behemoth gate right over here. And then we should end up at the other platform that we had sticking out. So again, this should be on full foundations where we can have the behemoth gate right between the pillars that we place down. And then again, we're going to repeat this pattern all the way through. So skipping a gap each time, placing in these behemoth gates. And 2 of them should line up with the parts that stick out. The other ones don't. But that is all right. That is planned. And now we're going to add in gates to all the behemoth gates that we've placed so far. And these should be all 1 apart. So every time there should be a gap of 1, and 2 of them should line up with the parts that stick out from the foundation, and that should be the full foundation blocks, not triangles. Okay, then for the parts in between, we are going to place down behemoth gates. So now we can just go fill in the missing gaps, make sure they're lined up with the pillars and you don't go too far out. And this should give you a nice big circle with the behemoth gates as like the bigger, stronger pillars, which looks a little bit better reinforced than the normal thin pillars, or well, normal pillars that we have that look quite thin on a scale like this. So we just want to keep going around, placing in these behemoth gates until we've got the full circle of it, which is the basis of our ocean breeding pen, or just our ocean pen in general. So this is what we end up with. And then of course we're going to have to start filling in the walls, and to do that we'll need some glass. So right now we're going to prepare. We're going to go at the bottom of these open bits. We're going to have some beams going across, and we just want to go all the way around. Of course, if you have this foundation sticking out, we don't have to do it. But on the other parts, just as a nice little detail, we want to prepare a little beam going across before we start adding in our walls and our glass windows. So yeah, just go across with the beams, filling in the bottom layer here of these. Yeah, it's just a small detail. You can leave this out if you want to save some materials and some structures, but you know me, I need to detail it, so I know it's here, and even though you might not ever see it, it's a good little detail. Then it's time to start on the walls. Now I'm going to use greenhouse glass here, but as I said in the intro, I wouldn't actually recommend making this out of greenhouse glass, especially down here. It's not a very strong material, of course, so I would probably just make this out of metal or tech and then skin it with a custom cosmetic if you're using that for your glass textures. Or if you do have mods installed, for example, Architect Structures Remastered has a great looking glass that can be as strong as metal or tech, which is of course a much better option. But just to make it more easy to understand what you need to place here, is I'm going to use greenhouse glass, but please replace this with whatever you're going to use, either a material that you're going to make a skin, a custom cosmetic skin over, or the actual glass if you're using mods instead. But yeah, everything where we have the big behemoth gates, but we didn't have an actual gate in there, we want to make these big glass windows so that we can, well, both see in from the outside into our water pen, but also of course the other way around. From the inside we can still enjoy the views of the rest of the ocean around us, which, especially if you build on like a particularly pretty spot with maybe some nice underwater views, this is a really fun addition. Although unless you have the same as me right now, have the fog off, sometimes it can be quite tricky to enjoy a view from the outside underwater. But it's the thought that counts. So yeah, we'll just keep going, filling in all these walls, all these big windows for all of these different sides. And again, please use different cosmetics. Okay, then we go. We're going to place a beam across the top of all of these, starting with the windows. But very importantly, we also want to make sure that we expand this across the top of these other sides so that we can place our walls above this. So above these gates, we also want to make sure that we have the beam going all the way through. And then once again, we're going to have to do this all the way around. So we're just going to follow the circle, adding in this beam so that we can start working on the next layer and we can start adding in our walls. So yeah, just follow the shape of this whole structure and make sure you add beams in everywhere. Okay, now that we have that in place, it's time to start filling in the next layer of the build. We're going to use large walls here because that's just going to save us a whole bunch of placing structures. And yeah, we just want to fill this in. Now, of course, this is going to depend on how high or how low your bottom of the ocean is. For me, I can place one layer of these large walls and then another layer which lines up perfectly with the pillars that I've already placed. And again, you want to make sure that it sticks out at least one full pillar or one full wall above the water surface. So this is what I'm going to do all the way around. There we go. Then we go into the middle here of the ocean pen. We place one little pillar that we can snap some vacuum compartments to. You want to make sure that the pillar is in the middle. Then you want to place 4 of these vacuum compartments and then another layer of 4 of them to make this big cube. This is just going to be a convenient place where you can go whilst you're breeding your underwater tames without having to swim up back to the surface every time. It's going to be like a small tiny base inside of your ocean pen. I would also suggest adding a teleporter here as well. And to make it look a little bit nicer and more blended in, we are adding these roofs around. And then of course we want to have corner roofs as well, because just having a cube down here doesn't look very good. So we want to make it look a little bit nicer at least. So making sure that we fill in all these corners. Then I'm going to cut in here as editor Etho. Don't add in these pillars just yet. We'll skip that and we'll do those later. Otherwise we can't interact with the vacuum compartments. Now you want to pick 2 sides where you're going to add 2 ceilings to the side. And then the other 2 sides that are remaining are going to have 3 ceilings sticking out. This is all to do with the detailing. It doesn't really matter which orientation this is in, because this is kind of its own separate building. But just 2 opposite sides have 2 ceilings sticking out. And the other opposite sides have 3 ceilings sticking out, making this whole square a little bit bigger. Then we want to also make sure that we can go into the vacuum compartment. I would only have 1 entrance and then just open up and unlock all the different compartments inside. And once you've done that, we can build a little bit of a structure in here, adding in ceilings for half of this on the top layer, adding these ceilings in here, and then we can make a little staircase so that we basically have 2 layers. You can have some cryo fridges down here, maybe some of your gene stuff, just as a little place to work from whilst you're working on your ocean tames. And as I said, I would also add in a teleporter here so you can easily get back up to the surface level. Now it's the time where we want to add in these pillars, because now we've done all the things with the vacuum compartments, and we can add in these last remaining details to make it look all a little bit nicer. And then this is basically just a place where you can work from whilst you're here underwater to make your life a little bit easier. And yeah, just a nice little looking underwater base here. Okay, then it's time to start on the next layer, which is the first layer above the water. And this is where we want to mirror whatever we did down below for the foundation. So this side is going to start with a layer of normal ceilings. We're using Tek ceilings now. Of course, feel free to use different materials, especially if you're going to work with skins. But for my design, I'll use Tek. And what we want to do is make this walkway 3 wide. So after this first layer of ceilings, we'll switch to triangles, start filling those in for an entire layer. So all the way across like so. And then we should have another layer of normal ceilings. Again, this mirrors whatever we have as a foundation below. So now here on this side, we would continue this with the normal ceilings and then have another layer of quarter or triangle ceilings here on the edge, and then one of the triangles there as well. And this is what you want to do all the way around until we have a 3 wide walkway from the wall that we've just built. So there we go. We have a 3 wide walkway all the way around, and that is what we're going to be working with. Now, the next step that we want to figure out is wherever we build those extra extensions in the foundation, so like this, that's where we want to continue our build. We want to kind of replicate that shape again, so we'll go out by 10 of these. Like so, and then we can of course go all the way across and making sure that it lines up with the other side. We can go back in with our ceilings, and this should all be supported because of the foundations that we have down below. This will go out by 4 of those on the outside, then 4 of those here at the end, like so, and then we should be able to bring it back in to the main structure, and we can fill in this entire part with the triangle ceilings all the way through like this. There we go. Then we'll fill in another layer over here. So this is 2 ceilings now. Then we can fill in a layer of 2 ceilings here from the side. We also want to add in 2 layers here with ceilings to the other side. 2 more from this side going over there to the end. But the middle one that we have left now, this I like to fill in with some glass ceilings. In this case, I'm using greenhouse. But again, you can use modded structures if you have other glass available. Or of course, use custom cosmetics if you want to have like a clearer glass type. And now that we've done that once, we want to do that 3 more times on the other 3 bits that we've placed foundations for. Okay, now we have all those walkways and the bits that stick out. It's time to build some proper supports for them, starting with the metal roof. Well, actually, the metal ramp. And then from this bit that we made the glass, we want to go here to the side. Make sure that there is 2 ceilings left. And then we want to place 2 of the ramps on this side and 2 of the ramps on the other side. And we want to continue this down. Now, of course, depending on your height, you might go into the ocean sooner or later. But pretty sure eventually you will end up underneath. In total, we want to make sure that we go down by 4 ramps. So just keep going until we have had 4 of them. And then, of course, do that for all of these. So we're going to add 2 more here. There we go. Then we can switch back to the normal metal roofs and place 2 more until we touch the main structure again. And this will be the main big support for our walkway that we have sticking out. So there we go. Then here in the middle, what we want to do is go right above the gate or the wall. And we want to place in 2 normal roofs like so. And from that point, we can go up by walls. I like to flip them around because the texture is just a little bit nicer than the smooth surface. Stands out a little bit more. And we want to make this go all the way up until the walkway that we've got. Then we're going to start filling in the sides. Again, I like to flip them around so we don't have those smooth sides, but instead have a little bit more texture. And we make this go all the way up until here, where we can have another slope wall. We'll do the same thing here on this side, filling in these walls until we reach the other support, like so. Then here in the middle, we can have another one of those slope walls on the sides here. And then we can go up with our normal wall. We can do that all the way up to the top. Go out by 2 more. Same thing here on the other side. And then we can take our quarter walls and fill in these last gaps that we can. Now, if you're working with only the normal game structures, of course, we do not have a structure that fits in here, unfortunately. If you use mods like ASR, you might be able to fill this in. But otherwise, what you can do, the best thing that you can do is fill it in with a railing. We can't fill in this one because that would stick out through the floor. And that's not really nice to walk over. So we'll leave that one open. But these ones, at least you could have a railing in to kind of close them off a little bit more. But otherwise, unfortunately, we can't really do that in normal ARK. And then here on the outside, of course, we also want to make sure that we fill in as much of the side as we can, starting with these slope walls, filling in the normal walls, going out by 2 like this, going back to our quarter walls, filling in these remaining bits. And then once again, we can try and fill in a little bit with this railing. But yeah, unfortunately, normal ARK doesn't have these shallow pieces right now. So if you don't like the look of that and you are building it in vanilla without any mods, what you might want to do is just keep going with the normal roof pieces so that you can fill in the sides. That might look slightly nicer. This is just based on the design that I did, and I used then shallow gables from ASR to fill in these last remaining gaps. But this is a way around it if you're working without any mods at all. But as I said, instead of going into these ramps, what you could also do, if you go from the wall, you just continue going straight with the roofs. It does mean that you basically end a lot quicker, of course. It will only go out this far, but, you know, it is whatever you prefer. But yeah, building it with mods, of course, you're going to get the nicest curves and effects. And now that we've built the support for one of these, we want to repeat that for all the other 3 sides as well. Okay, another alternative, if you don't like, you know, having those gaps and everything, and you don't have any mods to fill them up, is that you just, at the end of the roofs, you just fill in these with a straight wall, and you have the ramps like a separate bit that just kind of leans like this, and just does not have any of the sides filled in at all, so you don't have those awkward gaps left over. But I'll leave the decision completely up to you and your own tastes. Okay, now we have these corners in the middle that we still need to do something with. So starting out, we're taking out tech stairs, and then these middle ones, we're gonna have stairs going down 2 into the water. So the middle 2 stairs should reach into the water. Of course, if you decided to build this higher, you might need to go a bit deeper with this. But yeah, you want to go at least this deep. Then here underwater, we take out our metal ramps. And from the bottom of the stairs, you want to add in some ramps like this. And the same thing over here as well. And then afterwards, we also want to make sure that we use our roof here to connect it back up. We're not going to fill in the sides. It's just as a support for the stairs, so they have something to lean against. Then the next step is adding in these details. So what we want to do is we want to go down here in the water. We want to take out our metal roofs and then run from the side. We'll add in a roof right here and one right over there as well. Then we'll have a wall, flip it around because I want to have a little bit of extra texture instead of the flat metal surface. Raise it up until the same height as the platform. And of course, we're going to do the same thing right here on the other side. So raise it up to the same height as the platform. Take out our roofs again, flip them around, and let them go in by so. Taking out the ceiling, also making sure to flip it around for the nice texture on top. Do the same thing over here, and then we can bring it in with one more roof piece touching back to the platform. There we go. Then we can fill in the sides. I, again, like to flip around the textures to make it more interesting. So we'll do that right here. We do that right here as well. You can see I already did some over there. I prefer always to just do the slope walls first. Easier without having to change materials all the time before filling in the last remaining parts with proper walls. So yeah, we're just going to fill this all in. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you do this, including the stairs, on all the other sides as well. So we want to make sure that on the remaining 3 sides, or in this case, if you haven't done it here, of course, make sure this is all the same. We want to make sure that we finish it in all the other 3 sides as well, adding in these details, which, of course, don't really add any functionality necessarily to your build. But they do add a nice little bit of detail. As you can see, this corner is starting to become a lot more interesting to look at instead of having just a bunch of flat walls. And then the stairs, of course, they do help because if you do fall in the water, at least you can get up on almost every side of the building. So yeah, we've gone one corner here and we want to make sure that we repeat this process for the other 3 remaining. Okay, now we've all these details here. We will do some more details on the platforms later, but we're going to start focusing on the actual base portion of this build. And to do that, we actually need to extend this layer slightly more. So what we want to do is add one more layer inside of this walkway. So we're just going to go around and add in one more layer around this whole entire walkway, changing from the triangles to the normal ceilings, just following the shape of what we have so far, because this is going to be the first inner walkway that is going to lead both into the actual water pen, so your ocean pen, so you can reach your tames in there, but it's also going to allow us to take up the elevators to the next layer, which will be the living quarters. So yeah, we're just going to follow the whole shape of this. Shouldn't be too difficult. Just placing a whole bunch of ceilings once more to give yourself a little bit more room to work with. So there we go. Just continuing following this shape, changing from quarter ceilings or the triangle ceilings to the normal full ceilings. Just following what we already have. There we go. We have that layer. We can actually get started. And that means that at the end of this one, which should line up with these triangle foundations, we can actually add in a metal gate. That's going to be one of the entrances. And yes, this does mean that we will have to add another walkway in there. But for now, we're just going to do this because it's easier to see where we have to place the gates. Okay, and then we go to the next part, which should be the full ceilings. I try to place the gates like this instead of having the green layout, because now they stick out from the walls a little bit more. So we'll place one right here on the end and another one on the other end. Then we should be back at some triangles. We can place it in the middle. And we're just going to repeat this every side of this walkway. So yeah, with those, we just added in. This should all fit. And then here we should be on the exact opposite side of where we started. It should line up with one of these walkways, which it doesn't undo it on every side. That's just the way it is. I don't think that matters too much. But yeah, the triangles is where you want to line it up in the middle. And the other platforms is going to be in the corners here for the full ceilings. And we're just keeping this going all the way around until we meet back where we started. So we got a whole bunch of gates in place right now. Not all of these we're actually going to be using as gates. And then a little side note, I don't know for sure if you can place walls inside of these unofficial. If you can't, you probably don't want to have the gate here where we have the full ceilings, but instead make a similar shape with pillars instead. Okay, now it's time to add in some actual gates. We want to start here with the one at the triangles. Skip these two. Then we can have one in here. Skip these two. Have one in here. And just keep repeating this for the rest of the circles. So only at the side of the triangles is where we want an actual gate in there until we make it all the way around. And then these other gates is where we're going to have windows. Now, you can just use the greenhouse walls as we did before. But if you have some mods, you might want to use a proper glass wall here. Or if you have custom cosmetics, if you're playing on official, you can definitely pick some good glass custom cosmetics as well to make it a little bit more see-through. Because, of course, greenhouse glass isn't very see-through. But just for the sake of making it clear what you should use here, these should be nice windows to bring in some light to the inside of your building. And we're just going to go all the way around in these remaining gates and add in these windows so that we have some nice big windows all the way around on this layer, because this is the more industrial looking layer, I suppose. Just trying to make it look nice but still bring in some light to the inside of the base, because the last thing we want, of course, is to work in darkness all the time. So we're just casually making it all the way around until we've completed all of these. Then it's time to take out our tech walls, and we can start over here filling in these walls and making it one higher than the gate, so 4 walls in total, and filling this whole shape in. And we kind of want to continue those on these other walls, so we'll also be filling in the gaps and making sure the wall is 4 high in total. And this is another process that we're going to repeat all the way around. So just build these walls up around all the gates, making sure to fill in all these gaps to slowly create this first layer of the base that we're working on, that will actually be visible above the water surface. So just keep going around, filling in these walls, 1 higher than the gate, so 4 high in total. Just repeating this process for the entire circle that we're working on. And there we go. That is the first circle layer done. Now we'll continue the work on the inside, which basically means that first of all, we need to add 1 more layer around of this walkway. So again, we're just going to follow the circle around, adding in these ceilings and triangle ceilings until we've made our way all the way around, because this is one where we make the entrance into the ocean pen. And as I said before, this is where we'll have some elevators to go up to the next layer, which will actually be our actual base and living area and storage, whatever you want to make out of this base. But yeah, for now it's just going to be following the shape and placing in a lot more of these ceilings going all the way around to make sure that, well, for starters, you can actually walk around inside of the base, which can be quite convenient. And we'll add a bunch of stairs here so that we can get in and out of the water quite easily and yeah, make our way into the base or onto the walkways around here. So we'll just follow this up, and that should be the entire circle to start with. We want to take out our tech stairs, and it's easiest to just start at one of these entrances, add in the stairs again, going down by 2 in total. And we'll do that for all of these entrances, because of course, everywhere where we have a door, we want to make sure that we're able to get out of the water and get onto the actual walkways that we have. So just keep going around and adding them in front of all these open doors. Then we'll take out a ceiling, and in the middle of these triangle bits, we'll add one singular ceiling, which will be our elevator platforms to get into the next layer of the base. And we're going to do that all the way around again, just to make it very convenient. And no matter what side you arrive from, you can easily make your way up to the next layer. Then we'll take out our tech wall and we'll go to the double doorway, and we'll add in 4 double doorways on top of each other. And we'll do that for all of these ceilings that we've just placed in. This will connect up to the next layer, and it will feel like, yeah, just some support beams basically going up, but a little bit thinner than the actual pillars, and it saves us some structures as well. So yeah, that should be enough. Then we want to take out the elevator tracks, and we can actually add them in like so. So 4 against these walls that we've just placed in. They should line up in the middle. And for now, we'll just go around and place these tracks in. And again, you could definitely leave some of these elevators out or only have one elevator. I just think it's more convenient to have a bunch of ways to get into your base. Of course, if you're using flyers, you can easily fly up to the next layer and just land on the balcony. And then, of course, we want to add in the actual elevators as well. There we go. And again, we're going to add them on every side. This is going to be the layer that we'll build the living quarters on. But as I said, it's just convenient to be able to enter from any side you wish. Then we can take out our railings, start somewhere, and just start going all the way along, just to make it a little bit safer and easier to not fall into the water if you're using the walkway to walk around here. So we'll just follow all the way along, adding in these railings to make it a little bit safer, because otherwise it could get quite annoying, of course, if you fall down into your ocean pen without meaning to. And I think there's enough entry points with these stairs to get into the water pen already without needing to be able to jump off any of this walkway. And then especially if you're just trying to get to your elevator, you don't want to be falling down all the time. So yeah, we'll just go all the way around, following the shape of the structures that we have so far, adding in these railings to make it all safe and practical to be using. Yeah, just follow the whole shape around. Nothing too complicated. Quite nice and easy. And then we are almost done with this part of the building and the entrance to our ocean pen here. Okay, then it's time to start adding in the next layer. We'll start here on the outside, and we're going to mirror, of course, what happened down below. So we're going to follow along this edge, adding in a layer of these triangles. Then the next layer, of course, would be normal ceilings, like so. Then it would be triangles again, And we're gonna make the next floor now. So these are now 3 wide, but we want to keep going a little bit further because we actually want to go until we reach 9. So this is 4. This will be 5. This will be 6. This will be 7. This will be 8. And this will be 9. So that's how far we want to fill this in. And of course, we're not just going to do this for one side. This is something that we're going to do all the way around. So pretty much following the patterns that we've done before, we're just going to start filling in all of these layers until they're all 9 wide and make for a nice new circular layer that will be our living quarters. So yeah, we'll just start filling this all in. This shouldn't be really that complicated because it's basically just keep following the shape that we've already established before. It's the same as the foundation that is all the way down below. And it's just kind of, yeah, interchanging these triangles with the normal ceilings. As you can see, that's already a little corner of this. And then we can just keep going all the way around, which should give us a lot of nice new space to work with, which is of course what we want, because the next layer is actually a very important layer. This is the actual base part of this. We already have our ocean pen, of course, and a lot of the landing areas and walkways around the base. But this is the actual living part where you have your storage, your crafting stations, your bed, etc. Everything that you just need to live and survive out here on this base. So yeah, we'll just fill in all these walkways. You can already see it's starting to form. I'm not going to show you the entire process of filling this in because again, it is mostly just following the shape of the base that we already have. There's really no difficult part here. Just keep on going, filling these patterns in all the way around. We already have the holes for where the elevator is supposed to fit in, so it shouldn't be too difficult to just keep going around and filling in all these ceilings. Okay, now we have the whole platform that is quite big. We can start working. We want to start working at one of these entry points, and it should end in triangles if you've been keeping up with the way I've built all of this. We will place down a gate right here and a gate right there. So this is exactly 2 from the edge. And again, you want to make sure that the gate is the light side and not the green side, so it sticks a little bit out from your normal walls. Then we'll leave a side open. And then here we repeat the same process, adding 2 tech gates in. And this is what we're going to do all the way around. You'll leave a little walkway of 2 wide on the outside by doing so. So we'll add in a bunch of gates. Again, these are going to be used as entrances, so you'll have plenty of places to go out on your little balcony, walk around, enjoy your views, etc. And yeah, we should end up with a shape like this. And of course, we are going to go tech here, so we can add in the tech doors as well. You can, of course, change them to different doors if you don't like the noise of the tech gates every time you walk by or whatever. But I do think you can also, you know, extend the way they open so that they don't open and close too fast, and it's a lot less annoying that way. But I'll leave that up to you in your own personal preference. Okay, then we'll take out our tech walls, and in these spaces in between, we'll go up by 4 on these corners. So we have 4 high walls there, and that's something that we're gonna repeat for all of these spaces in between that we do not have any gates on. So the corners, you want to raise up walls that are 4 high in total, just following the entire shape of the building once more and placing them in. We're going to have some big windows on this layer because, once again, it brings in a lot of natural light. I personally just like the look of a lot of these big windows. And yeah, I also just feel it adds to the modern slash futuristic base look and feeling. So we'll go all the way around like that, and that should give us the first layer. Then what we want to do is actually connect them up in between as well. So we can go around, fill that all in, because that will make the next part of our building a lot easier. Although if you want to save on some materials, you can also leave this step out, because it's mostly so that we can easily snap the next layer of the building to this. But if you're unofficial and you need to save some structures, probably can leave some of these out. Then we can take out our glass structures. As always, I'm using the greenhouse glass, but I would recommend maybe a modded glass like ASR, or even a custom cosmetic if you're unofficial, because they just look a lot better. So I'll fill in the space between the gates, and we'll also fill in the space right here that we left open. And that just means that we can go all the way around, filling in all these remaining spaces to give us some nice big windows that will let in plenty of light, while still providing us with some nice walls, so that not everyone can just go inside of a base when they rock up. So yeah, just follow the shape, adding in these walls. And again, I would not use greenhouse walls because the glass is quite bad. You can't really look through them that well. But luckily nowadays there's so many custom cosmetics, so that even on official you can make a very cool looking modern base. And of course, if you're playing on a server with mods, it's quite easy to have a mod with some proper glass walls like Architecture Structures Remastered. That will look amazing. But again, if you want to save some materials, you can also leave some of these out, because you kind of only need a few places to get the snap points going, and then the rest isn't technically necessary. Just makes your life a little bit easier. But if you're unofficial and you need to save space, well, then that would be a good way to do it. Okay, then we're going to add a little bit of shape and detail to this place. So against these walls, we're going to place some roofs down, just to give some shape to it. And then of course we want to fill in these sides with some sloped walls. Yeah, just to add some nice supports to these walls and kind of get a shape going there. And we want to do that for all of them, all the way around. Then as an optional step to add some detail, but again, this is definitely optional, you can change these here in the middle to some thatch, paint them in the filth color to create like a little flower bed. And you could even, with the Bob Talltales DLC, or if you have mods installed, add some plants on top of it. If you have Architect Structures Remastered, you can do the same for these triangles, but for some reason, right now, at least when I'm recording this, there's no thatch triangles ceilings in the normal game, so we can't do that unless you use maybe some custom cosmetics. You could try maybe Adobe and paint those, and maybe you can get still a decent looking effect. But yeah, at least these I would change in some nice little gardens to bring in some greenery. And yeah, just a nice way to add in some details, in my opinion. So we'll just go all the way around, and in between the gates we'll add in our little flower patches. Then we want to take out our railings and add them in around the flower patch, but also here on the edge of the walkway, so that we don't fall off and fall down. So yeah, we're gonna follow the entire shape all the way around, adding in these railings. Okay, that's the outside wall done for this layer. Let's look at the inside here. We want to take out our tech gates again, and we want to place them here on the double normal ceilings. Again, we do these on all sides, and those are going to be our entrances here to our little middle bit. So there we go. We add in the gates, and we can fill them all in. Again, if you don't like the sounds of the tech gates, you can also do something different, of course. And for the parts in between, we're going to add in a nice glass wall. So we can just fill these up with whatever you're using for your glass walls, whether it's custom cosmetics or ASR. Just go around and fill all these walls in like so, giving us a walkway here on the outside, or well, technically the inside, but it is going to be outside. And of course, the whole living quarter slash base that is going to be in this circular shape. Then on top of this, once again, we can add in some normal tech walls. Technically, you only need one to get a snap point going, or you can connect it later from the other ones. But yeah, for just easy access, it's nice to have those above here. Okay, then we're going to add a little walkway here in the middle, which is also a great place for a teleporter. You're going to pick 2 opposite gates. For example, this one right over here. We're going to then add in some layer of triangles here, then a normal ceiling, and then one more triangle. And then on the other side, we're going to do the exact same. So the opposite side, we're going to start with our triangles, bringing in the normal ceiling, and then one more triangle. Then we can go out by 2 normal ceilings, and we should be able to make a full circle here in the middle, adding in the remaining parts to make a bigger circle to walk around on. Now this, of course, is a great spot for your teleporter, small teleporter, to get up into the base quicker, especially if you also want to add in a teleporter down in your little underwater breeding base there. Just makes moving around a lot quicker. So we'll pick our tech railings as well, start adding those in all the way around, just to make our walkway a little bit safer. So we'll just go all the way around. So yeah, for some of these doors, they're just gonna only access the walkway, but then 2 of them are actually gonna go to this middle bit, which is definitely where I would have a teleporter. Otherwise, if you do not want to use a teleporter, you can also just use this as a place where you can park a flyer, of course, and then go into your base. Okay, it's time to get started on the roof over here. So you want to check whatever ceiling is here. If it's a full ceiling, it means you start with the full roof, and we start adding in a little edge like this. So just following the walls. This is actually the only reason that you need the walls, to make it easier, because that's kind of where we're going to snap against. Although you can also, of course, do it from the one below it. And we're just going to follow the shape of the building. So one side is going to be normal roofs, then we're going to have the triangle roofs, and then going back into our normal roofs, following this all the way around until we reach back to the place that we started. So it's not a very complicated job, but once again, it's just a lot of repetition following the whole shape of the building. Okay, then here on the inside, we do the same thing. We look at whatever is below, and that's what we start with for the roofs. So we just start filling in these, and then of course changing them up just to follow the shape all the way around the whole base. Now this, of course, is a much smaller circle here on the inside, so it makes it a lot easier and a lot quicker to get this one done. But yeah, it's the same principle, just following the shape until we've completed the circle, which shouldn't be too difficult for this one. There we go. All the way around and fill in the remaining pieces. Then before we start filling in the next layer, it's easier to also make the supports here on the inside. So again, we want to look at the floor here, and then also add a layer of the roofs in here, because that just makes it a lot nicer to look at, and it looks like it's actually supporting the roof that we're going to be building above this. So once again, we're just going to follow the shape of the building all the way around, and making sure that whatever the roof is aligns with the ceiling below, and then you shouldn't run into any problems, and you can just follow the shape of the building. And we want to do that, of course, here on the outside circle, but here on the inside circle, we want to kind of do the same thing. So we start with our roofs, and then we want to just follow the shape alongside and just keep going and changing it up every time, so that we have the nice supports here going on as well. And then you just want to make sure that you do that all the way around for both of these as well. Okay, once we've got all these roofs in place, we can first of all fill in this part in between on the inside. So if you have the triangle roofs here, that's where we're going to start with a layer of normal ceilings, kind of just following the pattern of the floor below. So this should be quite familiar by now, and you should be getting quite quick at this, just changing back and forth between the triangles and the normal ceilings, and then of course continuing this for the other sides as well, just following the whole shape around, mirroring whatever is below on the floor to fill in this part of the roof and create the nice little shape here for our living quarter slash base portion of the building. And of course we want to fill this in all the way around, but only on the inside between these roof parts that we've just placed. All right, so as soon as we're done, it should look like this. It looks a little bit strange, I know, but trust the process. We will get there and it will look quite cool, as you can see in the background. Okay, we'll take out our metal beams and we're just going to follow the shape of the roofs here. First here on the inside of the base, just follow the outlines here of the roofs that we've placed as a nice little detail, and then we're going to do the same thing here on the outside. So we're just going to follow the roofs with a nice little beam going all the way across it and just following this all the way around the whole base. Then it's time to take out our quarter walls, and we're just going to add them here along the top of these beams all the way across. And of course this one here on the inside is quite easy, the smaller circle. Yeah, just going all the way across and just following this all the way through. But we're going to do the same thing on the outside as well, and then we can just follow it. And yeah, it's very easy. We just need to raise this up by a quarter wall height. So we're just going to go all the way around, adding in our little quarter walls until we reach the other side again. So yeah, just a lot of placing these small quarter walls until you reach the end. Now, as I said, for this top part and as well as for the other gardens, it is great if you can use mods and you have ASR, because besides the normal thatch, they have these triangles, so you can make a nice fake grass layer. For some reason, that thatch triangle is not in the game, so if you do not have any mods, you could once again use some custom cosmetics. I believe the premium Arcanian one actually has a texture that turns it into grass, so you could make a full grass roof. Otherwise, if you're bound to just normal structures, I think you're best off making it completely out of Adobe and painting that. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm gonna keep it just with vanilla structure, so I'm gonna be using Adobe. But yeah, just so you know, what I used on my other one is Architect Structure Remastered, because then you do have triangle thatch ceilings. Maybe at some point they will finally add those into the game. I don't really understand why we don't have them, but until then we'll have to work around it. But once again, there is alternatives. Even if you play on official without any mods, there is alternatives to make it work with some custom cosmetics, and painting the Adobe is still gonna give you a nice green roof. So yeah, we just once again want to just follow this shape, and this time we're going to fill it in all the way from this quarter wall that we've placed until the other quarter wall on the inside. So once again, we're just going to be following the shape and doing what we've done plenty of times, filling it in with our ceilings. Okay, once we've filled in the entire roof, we can actually go around and add another layer of these beams around, just to make a nice little edge for this layer of the build. Yeah, just to add a little extra thing that slightly sticks out from the walls. And then we're going to do the same thing on the outside. It's easier to do it now because now you can snap them to the ceilings here on top instead of snapping them to the quarter walls, which is just a little bit annoying and a little bit tricky. So yeah, we're just gonna go all the way around, follow the entire shape of the building once more to add in all these beams as a nice little border around. And then of course, whether you've done Adobe, whether you've found some grass custom cosmetic, or you have Architect Structures Remastered with the thatch, yeah, you probably want to paint it all in a nice green color. I usually use, especially for the thatch, I use filth color to get the nice green color that looks like grass, basically. So if you want, check out filth, and that usually works. Now we pretty much have the basic shape of the base done. There's a few more details that we can add. Some of these are definitely optional. You can choose whether you want them or not, but I do want to show you how to build them and how to add them. Okay, first off is going to be the little antenna that you can build. I've built that in a few places, one here on the top and then also some on the sides, but of course they don't really serve a function. It's more that they look quite nice. So what you want to do is basically you make a little tower however high you want it. Here on the roof I would make it a little bit higher, so maybe about 4 high in total, and then you basically just want to make a little circle around it like this. We want to build those down with some walls, and that is going to be the little platform for our antenna. Now I've done some of these on the middle ends of those parts as well. Then I usually make them too high. I'll show them in detail later, but it's just a nice way to add some detail to your build. Then here on the top, we want to continue, so we'll raise this up once more. We'll go up by 3. After this one, we'll add a normal ceiling here, and then we can fill in the walls here to the side again. So basically this is how you get like a little square box on this rounded shape, which just looks really nice. Then on top of here, we can even add in some of these railings, just as a little bit of extra detail. There we go. And then what we want to do is make sure that we have some pillars here on the side as well. So pretty much just following along with the footprint that is already here, adding in some of these metal beams to kind of break up those sides. Then here we want to kind of raise them up slightly more, so we're going to add in 2 normal tech pillars. Then we're going to go for some of the thinner variants, and I would change these lengths up a little bit and make some high antennas. And then if you have the Bob Talltails DLC, you want to change to this desk light and add those on top of it. And then what you can even do to make them look nicer is to paint 1 red, 1 green, and 1 your favorite color, or just leave it like normal, because then they really look like little antennas that have like the little lights and colors on the top of it. And especially if you add some plants around, this will look really, really good. And as I said, what you can do is basically add them here as well. I would then make them about 2 high to start with, then make the little platform and do everything the same. I will show them off in the final build, but you can decide yourself whether or not you want to add them. Another detail that we can add is the metal water tank. What we want to do is find the middle here of these 2 walls. You want to place 1 down without snapping enabled. It's easier to get closer. Then you want to enable the snapping, and you can build them all the way up until they reach the ceiling. So there we go. We can have some nice details like this, and then we can basically have some of these roofs coming down and fill in these sides as well. I would always do these roofs as little supports, but adding the pipes in just adds that little extra bit of detail and makes the walls on this first layer less flat. So that's what you do next to the open doors. But of course we also have these walls that do not have a door. Again, disable your snapping, so you can line it up here with the middle, then enable snapping again, build it up right here. And then the only problem is now lining up this metal roof. You can't really get it into the middle. The easiest way to do this is to kind of change the way this floor works. You have to add in some quarter ceilings first, and then you can add in a normal ceiling. Then we can have a support nicely in the middle, and we can fill it in like so. Of course, this is optional if you want it or not, but it does add some extra nice details. Then here on the inside of the water pen, there's also some extra details you could add. Here in the middle, you could add some supports by going down with roofs like this. It's a little bit dark in here, but yeah, you basically want to keep going until you reach the wall. Now, it doesn't fully line up because of the way like quarter ceilings and everything works, so it's not ideal, but you could make it. And then what you basically want to do is make sure you fill in some of these slope walls on the side, of course, and basically keep going. Then you can also fill them in with some normal walls, and then probably what I would do is here again have some slope walls going back into one of these roof pieces like so, to make a nice beam that kind of holds up the walkway. I would do that in the gaps where you don't have the stairs, but again, it's optional. It's also something that you won't really notice too much, so it depends on whether you want to take the time to do that. Another thing you could do if you want to make this little ceiling above us less flat whilst you're in here is you could do, after this little ledge, you could, for example, go in with one roof like so, and then of course, depending on the shape, you would then go out by this. Then you could add one layer of ceilings in between, so that would kind of look like this, and then you could go back up to attach to the ceiling again. So you kind of create this little bump, basically. That is what you do, but it adds a little bit more shape to the whole build. Again, this is an optional thing. You can decide whether you want to do it. It does just add a lot more extra structures to the building. It's depends on how aesthetically pleasing you want the build to be, instead of mostly practical. If you're going to do it in survival, of course, that might be a very big ask. Another thing that I would definitely do is add in some more of these railings, so at least these ones connecting the stairs up, but you could also go completely around the entire platform just to make it a lot safer. If you don't do that, I would at least do them next to the staircase and in these corners here. So basically go up to here. These ones are optionals, these platforms, but definitely add them at least here next to the stairs in these corners, and just go all the way around like this, because that at least gives you some safety. But if you want to be very safe, add railings around everywhere, because I mean, there's enough places you can jump over, and with a little sprint you can even jump over those railings anyway if you really need to get into the water. And one of the things that you might want to add to one of these platforms is a little Shasta dock, in case you build it on a map that does have the Shastasaurus. What you do then is basically create another one of these antenna towers, but then going down. So what we do is we find the middle right here, and then we go down by about 4 pillars. That should be enough. And then here at the bottom, this is where we want to add some vacuum compartments, because this is basically where you would park your Shasta next to it, go into the compartments, and then you can teleport back into base. Now, for the time being, we need to remove this last pillar, because then we can actually interact with these compartments. So you want to unlock them all. The side here we want to make open, the rest not. Of course, these connecting walls, we want to make sure that we clear those. You could even hide the connecting frames if you want to, give you a little bit more space. Definitely then add a teleporter in here and some power. For now, we're just gonna close the bottom of these compartments so that you can't see through them, their actual floor. Once again, only make sure that we have this front open. Now we can add in some pillars here in the corner and in the middle to kind of make this structure. I would also add them here, so none of your water tames will accidentally swim inside. We can also connect this back up again. Then what we want to do is we want to take out our little triangles and make a little circle around here so that we can actually make our little antenna shaped structure that we've built before, but then connecting up to these vacuum compartments to basically make sure that they kind of, you know, are integrated in the whole design and they're just not randomly floating here. Makes it look quite cool and connected. Then of course here on the corners we want to make sure that we add in our pillars as well, just going around and adding all of those in, because yeah, it just adds a little bit. And then to add even more shape to this, what we can do is actually add in some of these slope walls going into this tower, because it kind of feels more blended in together. You can see there's a little bit of space left here, so what you could do if you have overlapping, you could actually add one more piece or normal walls, just something to kind of fill in that little gap that remains. Or you could also just try to place a pillar, but if without overlapping, I don't think you would be able to place anything there. Now you can just leave it like this, but if you want to add a little bit more shape, what you can do is you can kind of continue the antenna shape that we had before. So for example, we would add it like this, and then we can take out our little triangle ceilings, make a little circle again, like so. Then we can take out a full ceiling, add that right over here. Then add in our walls here to this side. And this is all just as extra detail, of course. This is not serving purpose anymore. That's the vacuum compartment itself. That's where you can dock. But yeah, this is just because the Shasta, of course, does not fit through behemoth gates. So that's why we have to build something like this, where you can easily teleport into your base. And you can then have turrets on here to keep this Shasta safe. So there we go. We'll also add in some pillars here on the end, just to make sure that we have that nice design going on. And then here, of course, we want to add in some of these tech pillars and then have the thin pillars sticking out like so, as just some extra details to finish that whole design. But yeah, if you need a Shasta Bay, this is quite a nice design. You can have a teleporter inside to easily get in and out, and then have tech turrets underneath and maybe on top. If you want to place them on top, what you want to do is make sure that you actually place ceilings down on top of the vacuum compartment, so you can snap your turrets to the top of these ceilings quite easily. And then of course the most important detail for this base is either getting your little shovel and plant pots out and collect as many plants as you can to place on the top of this roof to spice it up, or use a mod instead to add your plants that way. Alright, after all that building, it's time to take a look at my build. As I said, I used a little bit of ASR, Architect Structures Remastered, for the glass, which is really nice and see-through. Also to add in some of these shallow pieces, the shallow slope walls that we do not have currently in a normal game. You can also see that I have diagonal pillars here, just to spice it up. And then I use the Quantum Custom Cosmetic set for these different looking textures. It's a premium custom cosmetic, but it is one that is also available for official servers. I've also used that on a few of these structures. That's why they all look different. It also works on all your crafting stations and everything. So it's a really nice way to decorate your modern or futuristic bases. And I've used JV8's landscaping for all of this greenery, because it makes placing plants a lot easier. But as I've mentioned a couple of times before, you can do it without mods. Use the Bob Talltales DLC if you have it, the shovel and the plant pot. The only thing is that you can't place them as close together, but you can still get a quite nice effect if you want to. So as you can see, I've added these antennas to all the endings of my platforms right here in the middle, which just looks quite nice, makes it look nice and futuristic. But then one of these sides, I've actually placed down my tech replicator, which looks like this with the quantum skin. and my transmitter. So you can actually use these platforms as a usable part of your base as well if you want to. And then of course you've got all these walkways to easily get around. I've also placed turrets here to keep my base safe. I've got these antennas, as I said, change the colors of these lamps to get some quite cool effects. And yeah, just easy access. You can see you can easily add a forge here, so you can easily land, drop off your gathering tames, get everything smelted up, and yeah, just looks quite nice. Then down here, of course, you've got the easy access points into that breeding basin, and you can see how much space you've got available. The tames don't take up that much space. I've got a Shasta here docked at my docking station, so this is what it would look like. You park your Shasta, you make sure you have plenty of turrets, you swim in, and then use a teleporter to get into your main base, which is the easiest way to do this, because as I said, they don't fit through behemoth gates, unfortunately. So then if we take a look around the base, what we will see is that you can easily enter the water pen from here. As I said, plenty of space in here to do all your water breeding, and then you can go to one of these elevators to call it and go up into the living quarters of the base. You can also see the shape here that I've added. Again, that does take a lot of extra structures, but it does look good. Like aesthetically, it just curves it out a little bit more, adds those nice shapes in. Then this is what the base could look like, again using the quantum custom cosmetic skins to get the look for all these structures. And you can see how much space there's still left in here. You can easily expand it and customize it to your needs. The only thing that would be difficult is making any internal walls, just because of the weird shape with the normal ceilings and the quarter ceilings, or the triangles, I mean. It just doesn't really line up. But I mean, you have plenty of space around, as you can see, quite easily. You should be able to get most of your stuff in the base. And then we have, of course, this middle part. I hit my, well, not really hit, I placed my my generator there, just, you know, as a nice little feature. And then again, there's a teleporter here to get around quite easily, and we can enjoy some of the greenery that we've got around as well. But yeah, as you can see, there's definitely plenty of space here inside the base. Of course, we've got this nice walkway. You can see the thatch painted to filth, adding in some plants. Again, I'm using JVH landscaping here, but you can definitely use the plant pots instead if you would want to. And there we go. We are all nicely together. All these little plants just add a lot of life to the place. And again, I've used a lot of the quantum skins also for these white walls, the white walkways, the black walkways. Just a really nice custom cosmetic if you like your modern and futuristic builds. And of course, the really cool feature of this base is definitely having all these plants and greenery on top of the roof. So again, using the Architect Structures Remastered pieces, you can have a thatch roof, which looks quite like grass if you paint it. And then all these plants just add a bunch of life to the base, which makes for a very cool effect. I really like this design. I think it's definitely a really cool place. Now, I'm not sure at all if you can build this on official within the limit, but maybe, you know, if you're playing on official and you're looking for a base, maybe if you save some space with certain details and structures, you could make it work on official. But no matter what, I think it's a pretty cool ocean base. And even if you can't build this exact one, maybe you can at least use it for some inspiration to build your own. And I think you could technically also just leave out the whole underwater part and just build this somewhere on land if you like the look of it. And I think that is going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and feel free to leave your suggestions for future builds down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.